It is now my pleasure to get our programming rolling once more and welcome to the stage the Washington State Public Lands Commissioner. And I can say this as an individual voter in Washington State only, not representing the organization, but potentially, wait, is Oak looking for, did you find her? Okay, great. And I can say this as an individual voter only, but perhaps our future governor of Washington State, Hilary Franz. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I was just learning from Carl about how to be really brave and ballsy by getting on a paddleboard and paddling 2,000 miles, and everything I do every day is chicken compared to what you do. So it is a great... Bill, everybody, if you haven't donated, donate big. I can only say that as Hilary Franz, not in a political office, otherwise I'd be violating all laws. Thank you, Bill, for reminding me. Okay. Glacier Peak Institute is the best. All right. I just want to say it is a great honor to be here. And I can say this from a lot of fronts. One, I got to see Oak in action. I love that, Oak in action. Right, actually in Capitol Hill, in Olympia this year, fighting for funding for our kids to get them outdoors and get them in touch with nature to the tune, I think, of $7 million. Am I right? He was working those halls. So not only have I seen him on the landscape with our kids, but I've seen him in the halls of Olympia fighting for our kids and fighting for our future. And this is an organization worthy of every single dollar and every single volunteer. You know, I have the great fortune, thanks to so many of you and so many people in Washington State, to actually be able to literally walk every single landscape in the state, from our coastline to the Palouse, from our ponderosa pines to our Douglas firs, every single river and stream, as I oversee 6 million acres of land, from our aquatic lands, the oceans, the Pacific, Puget Sound, to the streams and the lakes and the rivers, to all of our forest lands and 1 million acres of agricultural lands. And I also have the great fortune of fighting wildfires in this state that we see is now starting as early as March and going well into November. Our agency every single year is on the front lines of climate change, and it is changing. Whether it's the context of increasing wildfires like we've seen year after year in every corner, and now 35% of our fires in the west side of this state, or the context of dying forests, where we have 3 million acres in central and eastern Washington dying, but we're now seeing it literally in our Olympic rainforest. The context of ocean acidification that's impacting our shellfish beds and our salmon, as well as the context of drought and now dust storms on the 1 million acres that we manage. And we are truly fighting this gallant fight, thanks to all the work that our legislature and our governor has done, thanks to the work our agency, thanks to the work of all the nonprofit community, including our organization right here today, to really be on the front lines to actually helping restore our lands and our waters so that they are far more resilient to this rapidly changing climate. Those investments are making a difference every single day, not only in actually reducing these catastrophic fires, where just last year we had the lowest amount of acres burned, 170,000 acres burned, which is below the 10-year average of over 400,000 acres. It's a big change. It truly is. You should clap. It's my firefighters. It's my pilots. It's all of us. We've made a huge stake in the ground that says we're going to restore the forest, 1 million acres of forest in 20 years, and we are now, we'll hit halfway to our goal in just 6 years. We will get there in 10 years because we're working at the pace and scale of wildfire. We are making that difference. And now with the investment the legislature just did as a result of the Climate Commitment Act, we're going to be investing over $70 million in our forests in Washington State, because not only are we seeing the loss of our forests to wildfire and death and disease, it's to conversion. So just in the last 20 years, we've lost over 400,000 acres in Washington State to conversion, and we're slated to lose another 600,000 in the next 20 years. The evergreen state for the first time is less than 50% forested. Less than 50% forested, and it's only getting worse every single year. We're going to put a stake in the ground and make the investments to keep the evergreen state evergreen. But I'm going to tell you, the most important investment we can make isn't what we're doing in the lands and waters. The most important investment we can make every single day is actually in our children. Because everything we've done in Washington State, at the leadership level, local, state, and federal level, will be for naught if we haven't raised the next generation of children to care about nature, to understand nature, to get the science of it, to get the economics of it, to get the community element of it, right? And the fact is, we see it every day. Our kids, you go into a restaurant, you get on the bus, you get on an airplane, and what do they see? This. They don't look out the window in the airplane and go, look at all those forests down there. They don't look outside and get outside enough, right? And that connection, if you just think back to all of you who care about nature, think about that one moment in your childhood that made you care, that made you want to get into nature. I remember it. I was fortunate to grow up with ranchers, grandparents, and got to recognize spring cattle season, right, where the baby calves come out, with some of the last ponderosa pines west of the Cascades on our family farm in Roy and Yelm. But I also remember that as a kid who couldn't afford outdoor school, and I grew up in Oregon, there was a requirement for every sixth grader, they had to be able to go to outdoor school. And I got to walk in nature, true forested nature of our Pacific Northwest. And it was then that I decided I was gonna be an environmental attorney. I was gonna stand up for the trees. As my kid says, who's the trees attorney? And I said, they have no money, so we all have to stand up for them. We all have to stand up for them. If you think back to that, I raised 3 boys on a farm. They're feral, trust me, they were very feral. I raised them on a farm where they spent 4 hours a day in class, and the other 4 hours on the landscape. And it was there they learned creativity. They learned problem solving. They learned to get along. They learned about nature in their own eyes and their own mind without reading it in a book. The fact is, right now, more than ever, we have to be investing in the future, and that's investing in our kids getting out into nature. And there's an organization in this state that is having a mighty impact on our children and understanding the environment, understanding the community, and understanding the economy, and raising the next generation of scientists, foresters, policymakers, leaders, and governors that are going to change our world. And it's Glacier Peak Institute. And as I said to Oak, we need to expand Oak and his program far and wide across Washington State. And it starts with all of you guys doing your job tonight and spreading the word. Then I'm going to leave with one quote. Ralph Waldo Emerson, it's my favorite quote, said, what would happen if the stars only came out every 1,000 years? Just think about that. If the stars came out only 1,000 years. And we all kind of know what that looks like, right? Because we all remember the total eclipse where everybody traveled from all over the world, from, the eastern seaboard of the United States to the western seaboard. They sat in cold ice and cold nights and dry, hot deserts to see one moment in time that they knew no one else would never happen any other time in their lifetime. And they took photos and they shared it back home, right? The fact is, if every 1,000 years the stars came out, we would all turn off our TV. We'd all turn off our computer. We'd all get off our phones. We'd all go outside and just stare at the night sky all night long so we could tell our children and our grandchildren about it, right? Awe and wonder of nature. And the fact is, as a mom now whose last baby went away, I'm now empty, children are gone, I realize that our children are just like that moment of every 1,000 years that the star came out. Tonight, when you put your kid in bed, you put your grandson or you talk to your grandchild, right? It's a moment that is as special as if the stars only came out every 1,000 nights. And we need to start to treat our children that way, that they are wonder and awe that must be protected and cared for, and we must get them outdoors and seeing that on wonder and bring it back to us who've seen it so many times, we forget how special it is. So, to Glacier Peak Institute, you guys are